everyone, welcome back to Let's Solve. And in today's session we'll discuss regarding major hot deserts. And from this topic we are having a 2013 mains question and another prelims question in 2011. And in today's video we'll solve actually three questions, one 2013 mains question, 2011 prelims question, as well as another 2009 prelims question. So let's get started. First, let's take a look at the major hot deserts of the world. So it has been listed here like the Sahara Desert, Namib, Kalahari, like in Africa, right? And Arabian Desert, Iranian Desert, and Thar Desert. And like we are having the Great Australian Desert, then Atacama Desert in South America, and like we are having the Mojave Desert in North America. So these are regarded as a major hot deserts. If you imagine the climate of a desert, like it would be really hot. And we all know that like it's hot near the equator. And there's a chance that you might think the deserts are located along the equator, which is actually wrong. Instead of that, the deserts are located away from the equator and they're more closer to the Tropic of Cancer as well as the Tropic of Capricorn. Or you can say they are located along the subtropical region between 15 degree to 30 degree latitudes, right? So deserts, they're not along the equator, they're away from equator. Now let's take a look at some of the features and factors influencing the formation of major hot deserts. The first thing, as a feature, most of these major hot deserts which we saw in the previous slide, they're along the western margins of the continent. Be it the case of say Saharan Desert, Mojave, Atacama, or like Namib, Kalahari, Australian Desert, Thar Desert. All of these deserts generally we can say that they are along the western margins of the continents. And all of them, as I said earlier, they are along 15 to 30 degree latitudes, both on northern hemisphere as well as southern hemisphere. And like one major thing of, the climate related thing of major hot deserts, the effective precipitation would be very low. Effective precipitation in the sense, precipitation that can sustain vegetative growth, that we call it as effective precipitation. Or in other words, if it is some region, the temperature is very high, then that region needs more rainfall to sustain vegetation, right? And as in the case of desert, the temperature is high and it needs more precipitation to sustain the vegetation which is not available at those regions. And we can say that low effective precipitation is a feature of major hot desert. Suppose the same amount of rainfall is falling at some other region, right, at a colder place, then that same amount of rainfall would be able to sustain vegetation in some other region which is more colder, right? So because of major hot desert being the temperature being very high, they are having low effective precipitation. Now one of the most important feature or the topic regarding the major hot deserts is their formation, right? As you have seen here, there's a clear two tendency in their distribution. Like one, they are along the western margins of the continent and mostly they are located within like 15 degree to 30 degree north and south latitude. And let's take a look at why they are distributed in this way. So the main factors that are influencing the formation of major hot deserts, they are high pressure belt. Like all of those deserts, major hot deserts, they are located along subtropical high pressure belt. And then we are having the offshore trade winds and the presence of cold current and subsidence of air. Now let's take a look at each of these factors in detail. So the first factor resulting in the formation of major hot desert is subsidence of air. So subsidence means the air is moving from upper troposphere towards the surface or towards the lower troposphere. Like in this picture, right? This picture here you can find the equator and on towards the left side you can find the North Pole. Only the northern hemisphere is being given. And usually when we see a circle, we are looking at the picture from top of the earth, right? So this is, we are looking from the side. So this green colored region is a surface and on top we can say that like the atmosphere is there. As you can see in the picture, like some of the pressure belts, I suppose if you have read NCERT, you must be knowing that we are having equatorial low, subtropical high, subpolar low, and we are having polar high. And you have to remember this, wherever we are having low pressure, right? Low pressure means absence of air. And due to that process, all the air will always try to converge towards a low pressure region, right? As you can see here, equatorial low, the trade winds are converging towards equatorial low. And now, if we are having a high pressure region, the wind will always diverge from that high pressure region, or the wind will try to move away from that high pressure region. So these two tendency can be seen here in this picture. In equatorial low, the winds are converging, like the trade winds are converging, and in the subtropical high, the winds are diverging. One is the northern trade wind, another one the westerlies. And in subpolar low, again the winds are converging, like the polar easterlies and the westerlies are converging subpolar low. Okay, so and in the polar high, we are again having subsiding air. So wherever we are having low pressure, the wind will converge, and this converging wind will always ascend or will move towards the upper troposphere. And wherever we are having high pressure, along the surface, the winds will diverge, right? And if the winds need to diverge, they will be subsiding from the top. So it's like wherever we are having high pressure, the wind is subsiding from the upper atmosphere and they are diverging near the surface. And wherever we are having low pressure, the wind is converging near the surface and like it's ascending from that region, right? So remember that always, and if you do that, like studying climatology will be easy. Low pressure, convergence, ascending. High pressure, near surface diverging, and we are having subsiding air. Many things can be related with this. If you look at the case of, say, precipitation, which one would result in more precipitation? Think about it. Like if you are having a low pressure, winds are converging, rising up, and that can produce more rainfall. And if you are having a high pressure region, winds are moving down and they're diverging apart, and we won't be having a cloud formation or we won't be having much precipitation. From the picture itself, right? Can you point out the regions with highest rainfall globally, right? It would be the equatorial low, or you can say ITC, that's another name. And let's use the word equatorial low pressure belt. Those regions will be having heavy cloud building and more precipitation will be there. Same way at subpolar low, there also will be having more precipitation. And which places would be more drier? The subtropical high pressure belt and the polar high, because the air is descending in the subtropical high pressure belt. And we can find that the major hot deserts, all of them, they are located along the subtropical high pressure belt. Think about the reason. Why? Because the wind or the air is descending, or like when they are subsiding in subtropical high pressure belt, and the subsiding air will discourage the precipitation, because for precipitation to take place, the moisture should go up and the clouds should form, and then only we will be having precipitation. But this process is hindered or discouraged at these subtropical high pressure belt, because the air is subsiding at the subtropical high pressure belt. Thus, the subsidence of air is resulting in the formation of major hot deserts. Now let's take a look at the next factor, subtropical high pressure belt. Like the explanation is same as that of the above slide. You have to remember that wherever we are having high pressure, there will be having subsiding air. Okay, so along the subtropical high pressure belt, which is usually between 25 to 35 degree north and south latitude, we will be having subsiding air, and for that reason, major hot deserts are located along this subtropical high pressure belt region. As in given in this picture, right? The Africa is being shown in this picture, and you can find that the Sahara is along the this northern subtropical high pressure belt. So same way goes for the Iranian desert or the Tar desert, and like Nabib and Kalahari again is along the southern part of this subtropical high pressure belt. So the second factor that can influence the formation of major hot desert is subtropical high pressure belt. Now let's take a look at the next one, which is offshore trade winds. Now here, trade wind means the wind moving from subtropical high pressure belt to that of the equatorial low pressure belt, right? And offshore, this is another concept related with wind. You have to break down that word, offshore, meaning that away from shore or moving out of shore. And there is another word for it, a related concept, which is onshore. So there can be two kind of winds, onshore winds, meaning that they are moving towards the shore from the ocean, or the winds moving from oceans towards the shore, we call it as onshore winds. And the winds which are moving from the continents towards the oceans, we call them as offshore winds, right? Guess which one would increase precipitation, onshore or offshore? Obviously the onshore winds will bring more moisture from the ocean towards the continent, and that will increase the precipitation. For example, consider the case of the monsoon season. You all must be knowing we are having two kinds of monsoon. Southwest monsoon, northeast monsoon. During when are we having more rainfall? During southwest or northeast? During southwest monsoon, the summer monsoon, we are having more precipitation. Why? Because the summer monsoon is onshore wind. Like they are moving from the Indian Ocean towards Indian subcontinent. So bringing moisture towards Indian subcontinent, resulting in heavy precipitation. But if you are considering the northeastern monsoon, they are moving from the land region towards the ocean, or from the Chinese region or from China towards the other region, northeastern, or like towards the, like I mean the Tamil Nadu and all get rainfall, but usually the rainfall is less in major parts of the country because they are onshore. I mean they are offshore in nature. The northeastern means they are offshore in nature, right? So the idea is, if a wind is offshore, that will reduce the precipitation, and if a wind is onshore, that will increase the precipitation. So every wind at certain place it will be onshore, and at some other place it would be offshore, right? So the trade winds, like over these major hot deserts, they are along this trade wind belt. Like wherever the trade wind is found, these major hot deserts are along the trade wind belt. So if you look at the trade wind, generally they are called as tropical easterlies, or they are moving from east to west. So you can find here the trade winds, they are given in this red colored arrows, right? So they are generally moving from east to west. So if you look at them, right, they are moving from east to west, and if there is a continent in between, they will be entering the continent through their eastern margin. I mean, for example, consider the Africa, right? So here, like the trade wind is entering the African continent through the eastern margin, right? So more precipitation, like or the moisture from the ocean, will be brought towards the eastern margin, giving it more precipitation. But as it moves on, right, towards the western margin, like if you look at these regions, what happens is that the moisture is carried away from the continents, right? And for that reason, the trade winds, they are offshore in the western margins, and they are onshore in the like eastern margins. So wherever the trade wind is offshore, the precipitation will be discouraged, and wherever the trade wind is onshore, the precipitation will be higher, right? So think about all the major hot deserts. They are between subtropical or they are in the in near to this subtropical high pressure belt, where we are having trade wind or trade winds, right? So these regions, like the offshore nature of the trade winds is actually discouraging the precipitation. And in the distribution of major hot deserts, we have seen that most of these deserts, they are located along the western margins, not on the eastern margins. The reason is that the trade winds, they are onshore in the eastern margins, meaning that it will give more precipitation in eastern margins. But when it comes to the western margins, the trade winds are offshore in nature. So that means the moisture will be carried away from the coast, and the precipitation will be discouraged, and it favors the formation of like a major hot desert. So the offshore nature of the trade wind is resulting in like the creation of major hot desert. As you can see in the second picture given towards the right side, you can see that one picture, like the winds are moving towards the land, and that is the onshore winds, and when the winds are moving out of the land, that we call it as offshore winds, right? The next factor is related with the ocean currents, the presence of cold ocean currents. So before explaining like how the cold ocean currents are influencing the major hot deserts, let's take a look at major hot deserts and the cold currents. So starting with the North America, like the earlier major hot desert we discussed was a Mojave Desert, right? And we are having a cold current which is called as Californian current near to that Mojave Desert. And in the Atacama Desert, we are having cold Humboldt current, right? The Peruvian cold current. And in Namib Desert, we are having the Bencoola current. And like in Sahara, we are having the Canaries current. And like in Australia, we are having the West Australian current. So most of the hot deserts, they're coinciding with like cold ocean currents. Now let's discuss how the cold ocean current is resulting in the formation of major hot desert. Now think about the cold current means that the water is cold, right? And warm oceanic current means that the water would be warm. Okay. So if the ocean water is cold, there will be less moisture available in the atmosphere. And if the ocean water is warmer, we'll be having more moisture available in the atmosphere. And it means that the warm currents, the warm oceanic currents can provide more moisture, which can result in precipitation. And the cold ocean currents actually discourages the amount of moisture in the atmosphere, and in that way it discourages or it favors the formation of major hot desert. Okay, so cold ocean current means less moisture available, and the warm ocean current means we will be having more moisture available, which can increase the precipitation. Okay, so most of the major hot deserts, they're coinciding with the cold ocean currents. And one of the another prelims question that you can expect from this area, you would be given major hot deserts, and you have to find out which are the cold currents that are related with those deserts, right? So Humboldt current in case of Atacama, and a Californian current in case of Mojave Desert, likewise. Now let's take a look at the previous question from this topic, right? The major hot deserts. The first one, the prelims question in 2001. What could be the major reason or reasons for the formation of African and Eurasian desert belt? The first one, it is located in the subtropical high pressure cells, which is actually true. We have seen that along the subtropical high pressure belt, we will be having subsiding wind, which will be discouraging the precipitation and favoring the formation of desert. And the second statement, it is under the influence of warm ocean currents. It's not under the influence of warm ocean current, rather than it's under the influence of cold ocean currents. And here answer comes out as 1 only, or you can say A. Now the next question, another prelims question from 2009. In the world, the tropical deserts occur along the western margins of the continents within the trade wind belt, which is again correct. Tropical deserts occur along the western margins of the continents because the offshore nature of trade winds within the trade wind belt. The first statement is correct. Now the second statement is not exactly related with this topic. Again, let's see whether it's correct or not. In India, the East Himalayan region gets high rainfall from northeast winds. Now, in India's case, the East Himalayas, they get high rainfall not from the northeast wind, but rather from the southwest winds or the southwest monsoon winds, because the northeast winds, they are offshore in nature, and the southwest winds, they are moving from the Bay of Bengal towards the northeastern Himalayas. So meaning that from the southwest monsoon, they get high rainfall, not from the northeast winds. Now in this statement, instead of this word high, right, imagine the word high was not there. In India, the East Himalayan region gets rainfall from northeast winds, which is actually correct. But the East Himalayan region gets high rainfall from northeast winds means it's wrong, right? It gets most of the rainfall during the southwest monsoon time. And for that reason, here the answer comes out as again 1 only, or the statement A, right? The first statement is correct, the second statement is wrong. Now let's look at the mains question from this area. So this question was asked in 2013, since the pattern changed. Anyway, the major hot deserts in northern hemisphere are located between 20 to 30 degree north latitudes and on the western side of the continents. Why? Now if you look at this question, two major aspects of a major hot desert has been discussed or given here. They are located along 20 to 30 degree north latitude, and it's been given that they are along the western side of the continent. And we have been asked why. So it is really important when you are trying to solve a mains question. It's really important to understand the question. Then only we will be able to answer that question properly. I mean, while writing an answer for your mains, you have to keep two things in mind. The first one, you have to properly address the question. No matter you're writing a correct statement or you're bringing in correct concept, if it is not addressing the question, you're not going to fetch mark. So you have to keep in mind, you have to properly understand the question and you have to write the answer for the question, right? Then the second thing, the paper is being corrected by evaluators, and you have to impress evaluators through your presentation style by including various things, maps, and explaining it in a clearer and simpler way, right? So everyone thinks writing a complicated answer is difficult or bringing in lot of stuff will fetch you more marks. Actually, if you can simplify a concept and you can write in a way that anyone is going to, anyone is able to understand your answer, and for such answers you will be getting more marks. Okay. Anyway, in this question, as I said, two major aspects: why they are located, why the major hot deserts are located along 20 to 30 degree north latitude, and why they are on western side of the continent. So briefly, the points that you need to include: the 20 to 30 degree north latitude because of the subtropical high pressure belt, and then because of the subsidence of the air. Okay. And the second part, why they are on the western side of the continent. The one reason, the offshore nature of the trade winds, and the second reason, because of the presence of cold currents, right? And you have to present these four answers along with pictures in a way that, like, you have to bring the distribution of the major hot deserts also. And from this one area, like repeated questions have already come from this area, right? As you have seen for 2011 as well as like in 2013, we had mains questions. So imagine, you were writing mains in 2013 and you had prepared based on the previous question. Like you have seen the 2011 prelims previous question, and if you have prepared that area, you would be able to answer this question, right? So keep giving or give more importance to previous questions and prepare accordingly. Prioritize areas and prepare accordingly.